At my engagement party, my sister, accidentally, dumped wine on my outfit and said, "Now it suits your cheap taste." My mom covered for her. Everyone laughed. I didn't react. That night, I cut off her utility payments and froze the family card she used weekly. But at 8:40 a.m., they got the real news. Eviction papers were already on the way. I knew something would happen. I just didn't know it would be that blatant. It was my engagement party. Our engagement party, actually, since Emily had planned most of it. She looked like something out of a magazine that day. Graceful, composed, perfect. And I'd never felt more proud standing beside her, finally introducing her to everyone in my life. Of course, that meant my family too. They showed up late. My mom in a new blazer she definitely couldn't afford, my dad already a drink deep, and my sister Lindsay in something that looked deliberately chosen to draw attention. Too much attention. Lindsay's been jealous of everything I've ever done. When I got into college on a scholarship, she told people I must have cheated on the SAT. When I got promoted, she said it was probably a diversity hire. And when Emily and I announced our engagement, she laughed and asked if we were doing it for a green card. Emily's born and raised in Chicago. Still, I kept helping. I paid for Lindsay's car insurance, her utilities, the occasional, emergency, shopping spree. I let her use the family card I set up for groceries when Mom lost her job. Every time they asked, I said yes. Mostly for my grandfather's sake. He's the only one who ever really had my back. The party was in full swing. People were toasting. Someone played that acoustic version of Can't Help Falling in Love in the background. Emily and I were standing near the center, talking to some of my coworkers, when Lindsay walked over with a glass of red wine. She smiled, said congratulations, then did the most insane thing I've ever seen. She stumbled, exaggeratedly, and tossed the entire glass across Emily's white dress and my light gray suit. Gasps. Someone dropped a plate. Emily just stood there, stunned. Then Lindsay said it. Loudly. "Now it suits your cheap taste." I looked at my mom. She was already walking over, saying it was an accident. Poor Lindsay didn't mean it, she just had too much to drink. Then she laughed. A few of my relatives followed, giggling like it was some sitcom moment. Emily looked like she was going to cry. My friends, thank God, looked horrified. But me? I didn't say anything. I handed Emily my jacket, took her hand, and walked her inside the house so she could clean up. We didn't go back out for an hour. Grandpa came in to check on us. Said some people were arguing already and asked if we wanted to cancel the rest of the night. Emily said no. She didn't want to give them the satisfaction. I could see how hard she was trying not to let it ruin her. When we came back out, people clapped. Not sarcastically. Just trying to reset the vibe. Grandpa pulled Lindsay aside and said something low and serious. I didn't hear it, but she didn't look so smug after that. The night dragged on. We cut the cake. Took pictures. Pretended. But that night, after everyone left, Emily went to bed early. I sat at the kitchen table and opened 3 apps: my bank, my utility provider's dashboard, and a legal services site. By 1 a.m., Lindsay's access to the family card was revoked. Her phone would go dark in 3 days unless she paid the bill. Electricity? Gone next billing cycle. And the best part? At 8:40 the next morning, they'd all get something much worse in the mail. Eviction notices. From Grandpa's property. But that's only the beginning. The first ping came at 8:42 a.m. A blurry photo of a piece of paper sitting on the kitchen table, our old kitchen table. The paper was a formal eviction notice. Across the top, in big, bold type, notice to vacate. My mom had circled it with a red sharpie like that was supposed to change something. The text came pouring in after that. Nathan, what is this supposed to mean? Is this a joke? You wouldn't seriously do this to your own family. I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty, not even out of anger anymore. I just had no interest in explaining things to people who'd spent years pretending they were above needing to understand me. They knew what this was about. They'd pushed me too far. I don't know what part of the party they thought I'd forget. Maybe they figured the wine would dry and the humiliation would fade. But it hadn't. I could still hear the laughter, the mocking tone in Lindsay's voice, the way my mother tried to smother it all with fake concern and half-truths. Emily had cried in the car on the way home. Quietly, like she didn't want me to hear it. And I remember sitting there, watching the streetlights pass over her face, thinking, never again. Later that afternoon, I drove over to Grandpa's. He was already sitting on the back porch with 2 mugs of coffee and a thick folder. Didn't say a word. Just pushed the folder toward me. Inside were rental records, statements, screenshots of unanswered texts. Everything. My parents hadn't paid him rent in nearly 11 months. I already knew most of it. They always made excuses. I helped cover 1 or 2 months when things got tight, thinking it would buy them time to get back on their feet. It didn't. It just gave them permission to stay broken. Grandpa told me he was done. Said he'd called his lawyer that morning and had the papers ready. The notice they got? That was no bluff. They had 2 weeks to vacate the house or face formal proceedings. Then he asked if Emily and I wanted to move in. Now Grandpa doesn't live alone. Camille, his wife, yeah, the one who's 25 years younger, lives with him in that house. She's one of those people who seems too energetic to be real. Teaches Pilates, runs a vegan meal blog, and talks like she's hosting a podcast even in casual conversation. But she adores Grandpa. And somehow it works. I was hesitant. But Emily loved the idea. We hadn't really settled into our apartment yet, and she said something about wanting to be around people who actually seemed happy for us. So we said yes. That night, while Emily packed a suitcase and I loaded her car, the real fallout began. Lindsay's power went out first. Then the Wi-Fi. Then the water heater. I got screenshots from mutual friends of her Instagram story. Blurry selfies lit by candles, with captions like, "Can you believe people will actually sabotage their own blood?" Bitter doesn't even cover it. She didn't tag me, but everyone knew. Then Mom called. Again. Then Dad. Then Lindsay. I didn't pick up. But I did send one last message to the utility company. Remove my name entirely. No more autopays. No more extensions. The account was theirs now. By Friday night, they were living in a house without hot water, internet, or working outlets in half the rooms. Sunday afternoon, Grandpa sent the final message. A group text to all 3 of them. "You have 2 weeks. I expect the keys returned on time. If you need to figure something out, do it elsewhere. This house is no longer your problem." That night, Lindsay showed up at Grandpa's door with a bottle of wine and an apology that sounded rehearsed before she even opened her mouth. Camille answered, listened for 5 seconds, then closed the door in her face. That was when it hit me. They weren't just being taught a lesson. They were being shown what it felt like to not be protected. To not be bailed out. To be treated like what they were, people who chose pride over peace, again and again. And this time, there was no one left to clean up the mess. By the end of the 2nd week, they were unraveling. Lindsay tried to make it seem like she was in control. Posted some cryptic nonsense on Facebook with a sunset photo that read, "Sometimes family isn't blood. Sometimes it's a bunch of snakes wearing suits." A few of her friends replied with the usual garbage, "Preach, girl, and you're better off without fake people." It didn't matter. She was living off candlelight and bitterness. My mom called again on the Tuesday before the deadline. She didn't yell this time. She sounded tired, almost like someone pretending not to be embarrassed. Said they were just asking for some understanding. Whatever that meant. I asked her straight up. Why should I do anything for people who humiliated me and my fiancé on what should have been one of the best days of our lives? She didn't answer. That same day, I was walking out of work when I saw my dad standing next to my car. At first, I thought he was some guy waiting on a rideshare. He looked different. Smaller somehow. Not physically, just deflated. Like the weight of everything finally landed on him all at once. He said they'd been applying to rentals all over the city, but no one was biting. Said landlords wanted references and credit scores and co-signers, none of which they had. Lindsay tried to get an apartment on her own and got laughed out of 2 leasing offices. Then he said something that made me pause. "We never hated you, you know." It was such a pathetic sentence that I almost laughed. I told him that saying you don't hate someone while living off their help, mocking their fiancé, and publicly humiliating them isn't love, it's entitlement. He didn't argue. Just walked off like he knew he had no hand to play. On Thursday, Grandpa had the locks changed. Lindsay showed up an hour later and tried to get inside. Camille answered the door. Didn't say a word. Just pointed to the lockbox with their storage unit code inside and shut the door in her face again. By Saturday, they were out. Everything they owned, boxed and stacked in a dusty rental unit on the west side of town. The house that had been their safety net for 15 years. Gone. And Emily and I officially moved in. It was weird at first. Camille had labeled everything in the pantry like we were in some kind of Airbnb. Grandpa still used a flip phone and read the paper cover to cover. But there was space. Peace. Safety. I hadn't had that around family in years. Emily started sleeping better. She laughed more. She stopped flinching every time someone mentioned weddings or family. We started planning again, actual planning, without the tension of wondering which relative would try to sabotage it next. Then Grandpa called us into the sunroom one morning. He had this big brown envelope sitting on the coffee table. Said he didn't want to wait until he was dead to make things right. Said he talked to Camille, updated the paperwork, and had the deed in hand. The house was ours now. Not in the future. Now. He looked at me, then at Emily, and said, "You two are the only ones who ever gave without expecting. The rest of them? They gave me headaches. This house needs a fresh start." Camille, of course, had already prepped snacks for this like it was a celebration. Emily cried, this time from actual relief. Me? I just sat there thinking about every time I'd been told to get over it. Every time they rolled their eyes when I said no to something, every joke about my clothes, my job, my relationship, my future. And now? They were crammed into a 2-bedroom apartment with flickering lights and a leaky faucet. Lindsay was sleeping on a pull-out couch in the living room. And the house they used to brag about? The one they called ours even though it was never theirs? That was mine now. Ours. And for the first time in years, I felt like I could finally breathe. We settled in fast. There was something surreal about waking up in that house knowing no one could take it from us. Emily filled the guest room with wedding boards and fabric swatches. Camille offered to help with planning, which turned into long chats over tea and almond biscotti in the kitchen while Grandpa and I worked on repairing the back porch, a project he'd been putting off for years. It almost felt too perfect. And then came the knock. It was Lindsay. Again. This time she was holding a binder and dressed like she just left a job interview, except I knew she didn't have one. She said she wanted a civil conversation. And since Grandpa was out running errands, I let her in, partly because I wanted to hear what kind of angle she was playing now. She sat down and started flipping through the binder. It was a business plan, apparently. Something about a pop-up boutique she wanted to start. She had a budget laid out, some sample branding, even a fake projection chart that made no sense. Then she said it. "I just need a small loan to get it off the ground. I figured you'd understand since you know what it's like to start from nothing." I blinked. I asked her if she remembered the wine. The laugh. The cheap taste comment. She waved it off like it was ancient history. Said people say things when they're jealous or drunk or under stress. That we were family and needed to rise above petty things if we ever wanted to heal. Then she tried guilt. Told me she was living out of suitcases, that her car's transmission was going, that Mom was spiraling and Dad spent most nights at the bar down the street. I let her talk. Then I told her I'd think about it. But I didn't. Instead, I called the property manager of the apartment complex they'd moved into. Just to confirm something. I knew a guy who worked there from way back in college, someone who owed me a favor. Turns out, they were already late on their first rent. No cosigner. No plan. And if they didn't pay in full by the end of the month, they'd be out. That gave me an idea. A final piece. The next day, Emily and I drove out there. Not to the apartment. To a condo building across the street. A clean, modern, gated place with solid security and high prices. We signed a rental agreement. For Lindsay. Then canceled it 2 days later. Why? Because we let the leasing agent call her first. Told her everything was approved, that her move-in date could be scheduled, that the place was hers. And then we pulled the plug. It wasn't about cruelty. It was about clarity. I wanted her to know what it felt like to think your life was about to turn around, only to lose it in the final second. The message was simple. This is what burning bridges looks like. She found out when she showed up for a tour and was told the application had been withdrawn by the co-signer. I don't know what she looked like when she heard. I didn't need to. What I didn't expect. The fallout didn't stop with her. A week later, I got a call from my uncle, my dad's younger brother. We hadn't spoken in years. He said he heard about what happened and wanted to clear the air. Said he was tired of being looped into the drama, tired of bailing my parents out, tired of being guilt-tripped by my mom every time she didn't get her way. Then he told me something that made my stomach twist. Your mom's been telling people you've been stealing from Grandpa. That the house thing was fraud. She's saying you manipulated him while he wasn't of sound mind. Emily overheard the call. She sat down on the couch next to me and just kept shaking her head. I knew this was coming. Not the exact rumor, but the escalation. My mother has always been the type to flip the narrative when control slips. But accusing me of stealing from Grandpa? That was different. That wasn't just petty. That was dangerous. And it meant one thing: they weren't done. They were still playing. But so was I. I knew my family was petty. Vindictive, even. But I didn't expect them to go this far. When Grandpa heard what Mom and Lindsay were saying, that I had manipulated him, that he wasn't of sound mind, that I'd somehow taken the house, I expected him to be furious. But he just sat at the garage workbench, cleaning the blade of an old pocket knife. Didn't even look up when he said, "So I guess I'm senile now?" First I've heard. I offered to handle it. Make a public statement if he wanted, post something, even get a lawyer on record if needed. He shook his head and just said, "I'm not playing chess with people who can't even finish a game of checkers." But I knew him. That calm wasn't surrender. It was a sign something big was coming. 2 days later, he sent out a group text inviting everyone to dinner. Called it a reset. Said it was time to finally talk things out and stop pretending we didn't all know where this was heading. Emily was hesitant. I told her not to worry. Grandpa never lit a fire he couldn't contain. That Sunday, the entire family showed up. Lindsay came in with a binder and glossy hair like she was on the verge of a press tour. My mom brought a pie, store-bought, still in the packaging. My dad looked hungover, sat down without saying anything. Camille had gone all out, of course. Table dressed like it was a holiday. Linen napkins. Homemade sourdough. Even those pretentious little candles shaped like fruit. Emily and I helped plate everything while Grandpa just sipped black coffee, calm as anything. Then he stood up and pulled out a manila folder from under his seat. Said he wanted to make a few things clear before anyone started fake forgiving anyone. First, he clarified the obvious. He wasn't losing his mind. His doctor, whom he had just seen for his annual checkup, could confirm that. So the rumors that were floating around about him being manipulated. Lies. Then he opened the folder. Inside were notarized copies of everything: the property title transfer, the updated estate plan, the financial trust in my name. And then he said it out loud. Everything I own, the properties, the car, the investments, the inheritance, it's all going to Nathan. And it's staying that way. Silence. Then Mom said, "So we're just cut off?" Grandpa looked right at her. "You were never on. You just kept plugging in." Lindsay jumped in with something about betrayal and how families don't discard people. Said she was being punished for a single mistake. I didn't even have to say anything. Grandpa cut her off. "It wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. You've treated your brother like a wallet for years. Then you humiliated him and his fiancée in front of the people who actually care about them. If you wanted kindness, you should have started by showing it. Then came the final blow. From this day forward, none of you are welcome here. Not for dinner. Not for Christmas. Not if it's raining and you need a roof. We're not doing this again." Mom stood up. Said something about needing a lawyer. Dad just grabbed his coat. Lindsay looked stunned. Not angry, just like she couldn't believe her own manipulation finally had an expiration date. They left. No hugs. No apologies. No pie eaten. That night, Emily and I sat on the porch with Grandpa and Camille. They drank wine. We shared stories. It was quiet in a way I didn't know I'd missed. I thought that was the end. But then, 3 days later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a folded piece of printer paper. No note, just a screenshot. It was a police report. Someone had filed an official allegation claiming elder financial abuse. That Grandpa's asset transfer had been coerced, possibly fraudulent, and uncharacteristic. The complainant's name? Lindsay. She wasn't just bitter. She was trying to take us down. And now, it wasn't just family drama. Now it was war. The moment I saw Lindsay's name on that police report, everything clicked. This wasn't just about the house. Or the party. or even the years of resentment and freeloading. It was about control. She had lost it. For the first time in her life, no one was rushing to fix things for her. She wasn't center stage. And now, she was going to burn the whole thing down just to feel important again. I took the report straight to Grandpa. He read it in silence, then folded it neatly and dropped it into the fireplace. "Let her dig," he said. "All she's gonna hit is rock." And he was right. Camille contacted their family attorney the same day. Within 24 hours, he had already filed a response, complete with Grandpa's clean bill of mental health, time-stamped video footage of him signing the property transfer willingly, and a paper trail so airtight it could have survived a quart of snakes. But I wasn't satisfied just defending myself. So I made one last move. I took every screenshot. Every text where they begged for help, every mocking comment they made about Emily and me, even the party photos where Lindsay was clearly not even tipsy when she tossed the wine. I put it all together in a single email and sent it to our extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins. No dramatic subject line. No all-caps rage. Just the truth. With receipts. And then I deleted their numbers. 3 days later, the detective assigned to the report contacted Grandpa. Spoke with him over the phone. Said he sounded sharper than most people half his age. Said the case was being dropped due to a clear lack of merit. No further action. That should have been satisfying. But it wasn't. What really got me, came a week later. A letter. From my mom. Handwritten, surprisingly neat. She didn't apologize. Not really. She said she wished things hadn't gotten so ugly. That she never expected things to go so far. That she missed the old days. At the bottom, she wrote, "Tell Emily I'm sorry for the dress." I read it once. Then I burned it. Because sorry doesn't fix public humiliation. Sorry doesn't fix calling the police on your own father. Sorry doesn't come when you're trying to clean your conscience. It comes before the damage is done. Lindsay ended up moving in with someone she met at her temp job. A bartender, apparently. I heard through the grapevine she's sleeping on a mattress on the floor of a one-bedroom and sharing rent she can barely afford. My parents? They're still in that tiny apartment outside the city. No one's helping them anymore. The money ran out. The pity ran out. And eventually, so did the people. As for us, we're good. Emily and I got married last spring. Small ceremony in the backyard of the house they thought would always be theirs. Camille wore a green dress and cried through the vows. Grandpa gave a toast and ended it with, "To the only 2 people in this family who actually built something." After that, he handed me the keys to the lake house and said it was mine now too. He and Camille were moving to Arizona for the winters. "Too cold here for his knees," he said. "Now the house is ours. Fully. No shadows. No echoes of laughter at our expense." Sometimes people ask if I miss them. If I regret cutting them off. I tell them this. I didn't lose my family. I just finally stopped pretending they were one. It's been 3 months since the dust settled. Funny thing is, I kept waiting for something to go wrong, some call, some message, some last-ditch drama. But nothing came. Not even a whisper. Emily and I are fully moved in now. The house doesn't feel like Grandpa's anymore, it feels like ours. We painted the kitchen, got rid of the old beige walls in the hallway, and turned the sunroom into a mini library with floor cushions and soft lighting. Emily calls it her thinking spot. The wedding photos finally came back, and they're perfect. The kind of photos that actually make you forget all the chaos that came before. There's one of Grandpa holding Camille's hand during the vows. We printed it and framed it for them before they left for Arizona. They've settled into their new place down there, a desert-style home with mountain views and a community pool. Camille sends us videos of Grandpa trying yoga every Sunday. It's mostly him lying flat on a mat refusing to move while Camille laughs in the background. And us? We've been happy. Real, simple, quiet happy. Emily's dress business is picking up faster than we expected. She just signed her first out-of-state bridal boutique partnership, and I've been helping her convert the guest room into a work studio. I started going back to the gym, cooking more, working less on weekends. The biggest surprise? We adopted a dog. A rescue, part shepherd, part who knows what. His name's Murphy. He chews through everything except the one toy Emily gave him the first day. Sleeps between us every night like it's his job to keep watch. Sometimes I sit on the back porch with a coffee and Murphy curled up beside me, And I think about how loud life used to be. The shouting. The guilt. The need to keep everyone from falling apart. It's just gone now. No noise. No begging. No pretending. And in that silence, I found something better than revenge. I found peace. Real earned peace. And I'm not giving it up for anyone.